Good morning, everyone, and thank you for taking the time to join us this morning. My name is Tracy Lawson, and I am a broker advisor with Cornerstone, normally in the Cincinnati office. Now I'm working from my home office on this bright, sunny day. I would like to start just by thanking each of you for choosing Cornerstone as your general agency. We truly do value your partnership. And before we get started and turn the presentation over to Anthem, there are a few updates that I'd like to take the time to go over with you. Just so you know, Cornerstone has announced their 2021 Broker Incentive Program, and that does come with qualifying new business sales from January 1 through December 31 of 2020. The top prize for this incentive program will be $5,000. Who doesn't love money, right? You can register on the Cornerstone website. Actually, you do need to register in order to be eligible to participate in that program. And again, you can do that at Cornerstone's website, where you will also find all of the program details as well. As a reminder, Cornerstone offers our Autopilot program, which is a compensation-based referral program structured to help our valued brokers grow their business. So for additional information on that program, you can access that via the Cornerstone website or contact your Cornerstone broker advisor. And last but not least, Cornerstone has revamped their website. So if you haven't had a chance to go out and take a look at that, I would recommend doing so. We have a great resource center out there with a lot of group and individual information, as well as access to all of our recent news posts. So if you've missed one of our weekly marketing minutes or invitations to any of the webinars, that type of thing, you will be able to find that out on the website. Also, something new to that website that I want to make you aware of in case you aren't already, with the hot topic being COVID, we do have a link on our homepage, and you'll see a big gold banner at the top. There is a link for carrier updates as well as legislative updates. So we are getting those carrier updates daily. So if you have questions, getting questions from your clients, you can access the most updated carrier information there. We have all of those documents dated. And then if you have additional questions, do not hesitate to reach out to your Cornerstone broker advisor. During the webinar, all phone lines will be muted. So if you have questions, please type those in the question box, and we will address those at the end of the presentation. Also, this presentation is being recorded and will be available on the Cornerstone website in the next few business days. Before I do turn the presentation over to Marlon, a couple of things that I would like to mention. The process used today for pre-screening and submitting new business SOCA BP cases will not be changing. So Form Fire will still be used as the vehicle for those submissions. The information being shared today will require action on your part. It is imperative that groups understand the fashion in which ongoing maintenance is processed for your SOCA BP groups has changed. Those changes did go into effect on April 8th for all open enrollment changes with an effective date of May 1 and later. If you have processed any open enrollment changes for a SOCA BP plan via Form Fire since April 8th, those changes will need to be reprocessed using the process that Marlon will be reviewing with us today. And again, if you have any questions as we're going through the presentation, please type those in the question box, and we'll address those as time permits after the presentation. With that being said, Marlon, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you, Tracy. I appreciate that. Again, my name is Marlon Bird, and I am part of the small group sales team in Mason, Ohio. And I appreciate the opportunity to be with you all this morning. During our webinar, information will be provided regarding the SOCA benefit plan. There will be a new process for employee enrollment. All right, I'm sorry here. Okay. Employers will get a better experience. Our agenda for today, we will talk about renewal changes, employer access, billing, and then some miscellaneous items. Excuse me. Changes to the renewal process. No longer will there be a need to upload plans, benefits, rates to FormFire. Benefit changes will be submitted directly to Anthem only. Please include the administrative and benefit plan change authorization form with the signed alternate rate proposal. Open enrollment changes will be completed on Anthem's employer access portal. All open enrollment changes for medical, vision, and dental will be done on the same portal. And again, the system functionality became available for SOCA BP beginning April the 8th. Employers will enjoy easier and more powerful tools. Effective with renewal, employer access will be the required source of employee eligibility and enrollment information. FormFire will no longer be used for member benefit administration for member effective dates May 1st, 2020 and after. Any changes for effective dates prior to May 1st, 2020 should still be entered on FormFire via the current process. Employer access is a one-stop solution to manage all benefits, including adding, deleting, or enrolling employees in real time. As a reminder, groups with life and disability installed prior to 1/1/2020 will still remit membership changes directly to Anthem Life Central Region at anthem.com. No new registration is needed if you're already registered. Groups can see previous group numbers through the Anthem Employer Portal for 180 days after moving to the new group number. And here is the Anthem Employer Access registration link. Employer Access registration process for group administrators. Before you can use Employer Access, you need to register at employer.anthem.com. After you register, your request will be submitted for approval. Approximate turnaround time is normally 3 to 5 business days to receive an email response with logon credentials. An on-file email address is required to initiate the registration process. Once approved, you'll get an email with your temporary password. You'll enter your enter your user ID and case-sensitive temporary password. After that, you'll be taken to the employer portal where you can complete the usage agreement, enter your group information, and choose what you want to do. This is a display of employers can request access for brokers. Employer access registration process for brokers. First, go to the producer toolbox. Find the group in your agency's book of business. Click on group name. Once on the group summary page, in the bottom left corner, there will be a link that says go to employer access. Click on that link. Above the login, there is a note that asks, don't have access yet? Request now. Click request now, and your request will be routed directly to the group email on file. Permission can be granted even if the group is not registered. The employer has the option to approve or deny the broker request. The broker receives an email. Broker basics on employer access. Brokers have their own username and password. Brokers can use employer access on behalf of their groups, and listed here are some of the services and functionality that is available on employer access. Go to employer access after access is granted. We're going to talk about some billing changes as well. All medical and specialty invoices will be available on Employer Access. One bill for all specialty lines: vision, dental, life, and disability. Bills will continue to generate on the 10th of the month. Accounts will debit on the 1st or 2nd of the month. Beginning May 1st, 2020, Anthem will bill the product dues on behalf of SOCA. The product dues will be separate from the premium equivalent amount and paid via ACH EFT. Dues will be billed monthly at a per subscriber per month rate based on the enrollment for the corresponding month. Employer access resources. There is steps to find, we have steps to find employer guide to employer access. So this information, or these sub bullet points here, provide some information regarding how to log into employer access and some of the other support and resources that are available. Within the presentation that you all will have, or that you have the ability to download, there is an employer access demo video. I would encourage individuals to, at their leisure, take a look at the demo video. It will provide some additional overview information regarding employer access. Additional employer access resources. There is a weekly employer access demos webinar. These are on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern time. This information is listed on the slide in terms of how to join the meeting and the other information as well in terms of the call-in number and access codes. All right, some additional information in reference to employer access. These are some screenshots in regard to the system. Once I've gone through the slides, I'm going to do a demonstration of enrolling a member on our test site shortly so that you can see this illustrated. But these next slides essentially just go into the process of enrolling a member, and just, again, we're going to go ahead and do a demo so that you can see what it looks like from a live perspective. Again, just scrolling through the slides here in terms of where you would be entering various information when you're going into the enrollment process for an employee. And obviously, you'll have this information in the handout to refer to at a later time. Okay, let's talk about locating employer access guide on the producer toolbox. So you would want to log into the producer toolbox, and this slide illustrates where you would need to click on in terms of the menu to get into the producer toolbox. And under tools and resources, you would click on all resources and forms, and you would want to go to the Ohio Small Group dropdown. Within that dropdown, you'll scroll down to Documents and Tools, and click on 2020 Ohio Employer Access Manual, which again, that is part of the resources that are available to you as a download from this presentation today. All right, I want to go ahead and go into the live demo portion of this as well, so you can get an idea of the functionality in terms of employer access. I don't know how many individuals have actually ever used the system in the past, but again, this will give you some idea in terms of what you and or the group would be doing to enroll a member. So again, I'm in a test environment, and I'm hoping that things will work as they should. So I logged into the test site earlier this morning, and so this provides information. I'm not Sandeep, obviously, but we've got our group number, and this happens to be connected to one of our testing sites for Kentucky, but it still is going to work for us. So matter of fact, let me go back. I'm going to just start from the beginning here just so that you can see something else. One moment. I am still active. I wanted to start from the very beginning. If it will let me do that, bear with me here. Okay, we're going to start from the very beginning here. So I'm going to be putting in a test user ID. Okay, so it's going to bring up a drop down here, and you will need to be selecting the correct application, which for the actual SOCA MEWA groups, you would want to select the Central Employer Access large group. Because we have multiple systems, depending on the actual size of your group, and because this is a site that's used by groups that are small and large, there's certain applications that are assigned to specific specific groups depending on what systems that we have with their enrollment and billing functioning through at Anthem. But again, for SOCA MEWA, we want to select the Central Employer Access Large Group. We'll click on that. And then you will see this screen here. We've got the search, which is optional. I have a test group number that I'll be using. And we'll click on the Let's Go. Oh my goodness, let's see. Let's go back to the dashboard. Not sure why this is happening. I'm going to try another test site here. One moment, I do apologize. I'm going to try a different group number. Hopefully this one will be more successful. Again, I do apologize for this. Okay. All right. So we have our group name here, Polygon Industries. And we are in the, I'm sorry, I'm going to go to the Enroll and Manage. So we'll go to the actual tabs up here. We want to click on Enroll Employee. And that's going to bring us to our enrollment screen. So the initial information regarding the employee will be listed here. We would put in a social security number. And then I'm going to click on Continue. Here we come to the employee information screen. We're going to list the employee's name. And their address information. If you type in a zip code, the city information should automatically populate for you. I'm going to put in a phone number for this individual. And if you were supplied an email address, you could put that information here if you wanted to. We are going to go to the gender drop downs, make that selection, enter the employee's date of birth. And I'm going to re-enter the Social Security number again. All right, and then we're going to scroll down to employment details. We're going to click on the date the application was signed, which will be April 1st. Their hire date also is April 1st. If I can, let me move this over. That's me. Okay. And the enrollment reason, this is a new hire, so we're going to select new hire from the drop-down box. As you can see here, the waiting period for the group is automatically populated, so you don't have to put that information in. And then for the coverage type, we'll go to the drop-down. This is an active employee. We click on active. Also, there is the ability to change the preferred language. It is defaulted for English, but if you wanted to change the individual's preferred language, you can click that information here and select yes if you needed to do that. Also, existing coverage, if an individual had existing medical coverage or existing Medicare coverage, that information would be checked here with yes if you needed to do that. We'll click on continue. This individual has a dependent spouse, so we're going to add the spouse. And as you would guess, this will be Jane. Select the gender type, date of birth for her. One moment. And we're going to enter a Social Security number. The relationship would be spouse. This, the dependent status with the drop-down box does not need to be completed. And for SOCA MEWA groups, domestic partnerships, just as an FYI, it's not allowed. But again, this information for the spouse, you would not want to select domestic partnership there. Also, some additional information if this individual was disabled, if they were a full-time student, IRS dependent information, all of this can be changed or checked depending on if it was applicable. Again, we have the language preferences in terms of being able to change that if we needed to change it from English. And does the dependent have existing coverage through other providers? Again, if it was applicable, you would want to check yes, depending on if it was medical that applied or Medicare. And we're going to go ahead and continue to select coverage. This particular group has both medical and dental coverage, so we're going to select all. And for some groups that like to track employees through a specific department number or employee number, if they choose to do that, we do have this option here. What happens is when it is filled out on employer access, this information is then going to be printed on the monthly invoice for designation purposes. So you do have that option. We're going to go ahead and click on continue. For this particular group, they have several options for medical, as you can see here. I'm going to click the first one. And we do have the ability to, it's not required for a primary care provider to be selected, but it is an option if the member supplied that and wanted that to be included. And then it just says that this medical coverage will be assigned to the employee along with the selected dependents. So that information is here. We'll go ahead and click continue. The group has dental coverage as well. So we're going to select, they have several options for dental. We'll just select the first one here. and we could still get the same information regarding the dental coverage and how it will be assigned to the subscriber, as well as any selected dependents. And then we'll click on continue. And the system gives you the ability to make sure that everything looks right so far. You can review the selections below. As you can see, the effective date is already provided here based on the actual waiting period for the group. We have the medical coverage here that's listed. We have the spouse here with medical coverage with the subscriber, the dental coverage here, as well as the dependent information. And then we would click continue again. We have the option, again, just to reiterate, if we needed to assign a provider, if that information is available and the member wants to is wanting to have that listed under their enrollment, you have that option to go in and assign for each of the individuals. We're going to go ahead and continue without assigning a provider. And then we come to the review and complete the enrollment. We're almost done. So we're, again, just going to take a look at what's listed here. And once we verify that everything is correct for the subscriber, dependent information, all of that, we would just simply click here to, click here to complete the enrollment. And then once that's done, the actual enrollment number or ID number for the member is assigned, and it's in the system. Generally, it takes about 24 hours for the information to transmit from employer access to our actual legacy systems, or our enrollment and billing systems that we use, so that we see that on our end in terms of it being downloaded in the actual enrollment systems. Generally, once the download has taken place, within 24 hours of that particular segment of the enrollment process, the actual temporary ID cards, or our PDF ID cards, are produced in employer access, which, as a broker that has credentials in the system, you would be able to go in and see the enrollment cards as they have generated. And then if you needed to actually email a copy of the card to yourself or to the employee or to the group, that information is available, and you would then be able to actually see all of the demographic information in regard to the enrollment in terms of the member's name, dependents, addresses, effective dates, all of that information in the system. So with that, I'm going to pause here and see if there are some questions at this point, or if we need to go over anything again or provide some clarification.
Okay, we have a couple of different questions here.
Okay.
So the first question is, if an open enrollment was submitted on the old group number, will it carry over to the new SB group number?
So yes, if you have already, well, first of all, in terms of the open enrollment, if it was done, well, I'm sorry, the open enrollment period would be 5/1. So if it was done via form fire, I'm assuming, so they just want to make sure that that enrollment is going to cross over to the new ID number for our WGS system. And yes, it should actually transfer over to the new system with the new group ID number for what we call our WGS system.
Okay, can the broker have the same login, or will it be different passwords for each group?
The broker can, so once they get the approval from the group to go in into employer access and transact on the group's behalf, they're going to have a temporary password, and then they should be able to utilize the same password if they have multiple groups. And if they want to use the same user ID. It's my understanding that they should be able to do that, yes.
Okay. Okay, this one's kind of a longer one. Generally, when I'm in here and log in, I don't have an option to say where I'm going today. I generally log into my producer portal, and then I choose my group and click on employee access from inside my group. Will this still work?
So the broker is going into the producer toolbox to look at their client listing on the producer toolbox, and then wanting to go into employer access once they've selected the group, and then do the enrollment through employer access, or excuse me, go through the producer toolbox to get to employer access, and then transact in employer access. I'm trying to make sure that I'm understanding that that's the question.
I think that's where she's going now.
Yes, so and that is a good question, actually. So if the broker is in the producer toolbox, and they, again, are looking at their portfolio of groups out there, yes, you can go into that group, then select employer access. You'll be taken to the employer access site, and then you would have the same functionalities as you would if you were to log in directly into employer access.
Okay, how long does it take for a group to show in the employer portal once the employer grants access for the broker?
Once the employer grants access to the broker, that goes to the employer access site administrator. It's going to depend on how quickly the administrator gets that approved. I believe that generally they are done within 3 to 5 business days. I think it's actually sooner than that, but it could take up to that length of time depending on the number of requests that come through.
Okay, I think you covered this one, but just in case, when entering ER access, do we have a user and password for each group?
Yes, so you're going to have you will need to have a separate username, or excuse me, you'll have to be granted separate access for each group. So you wouldn't be able to use one username and password in terms of multiple individuals or per the agency. So each member of that broker agency will have to request access from the group in order to be able to utilize the system, if I'm understanding the question correctly.
Okay, Form Fire handled the COBRA. How is the COBRA now being handled?
You would be able to, I'm going to double check that. My understanding is that the COBRA should be entered. Well, no, let me go ahead and I'm going to have to verify that, because with the SOCA MEWA plans, the My COBRA benefit plan actually is the administrator for COBRA. So I do need to get specifics on that in terms of that process, because the actual information will need to go to My COBRA, and at that point I need to verify exactly if that will be handled through My COBRA plan, or if the group will be able to, or broker will be able to do that. So that is a question I will have to get back to Tracy on and have her disseminate that to the individuals on the call.
Okay, the next question is, will this handout be available?
Yes, and I believe that you have that as an actual, there should be several handouts there that are available for the team. So you have the employer access step-by-step guide, the actual presentation, and then we also have the flyer for the online employer access training, which again, that is done weekly. I would suggest individuals to also take that opportunity to join that webinar. They have subject matter experts for employer access that we'll be able to go into some additional areas within the system that I think will be beneficial for individuals that are on today's webinar.
And we will get those documents mailed out to you.
And there's a handout section on your GoToWebinar screen as well that you should be able to see those. And if not, just give us a call. The next question is, confirm that employer access does not have to currently be established, but the employer to make employer access to the broker.
Yes, that is correct. But again, the broker will need to request user credentials through the producer toolbox first, because once that's done, email is sent to the employer access site administrator, and they will have to just make sure that they get approval from the group administrator to allow the access to the broker.
Hey, Marlon, it's Tracy. Real quick, I have an add-on question to that.
Yes.
So when that permission request is sent from the broker to the group, that request is going to the contact that Anthem has on file. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes. So who is listed currently as the group administrator, they are the individuals that will get the email from the Anthem Employer Access administrator with your request to get user credentials on the system.
So what is the process for confirming who Anthem has set up as that contact? I think we see oftentimes that, maybe the group has a new contact and that has not been updated in Anthem's system. Mm-hmm. So to prevent that permission request from going into a black hole per se, mm-hmm. how can the broker or the group verify up front who is listed, and if that needs to be changed, what is the process for doing so?
Okay, so great question with that. And the group administrator, let's say that they have a new group administrator, and we haven't received an update from the group, which that does happen. Individuals that are president, CEO, VP, owner, they can call into, they would have to check with enrollment and billing to verify who is actually the designated group contact for us. If that has to be changed, we do have, and when I say we, the enrollment and billing unit will need to receive a letter on company letterhead from the, again, individuals that are part of the C-suite or the current group's authorized signer, that will need to be submitted to Anthem to change that designation in enrollment and billing first, or to get it updated, in order for us to verify that we have the correct group contact on file. So if it has to be changed, we will need to get correspondence on company letterhead signed by the group's authorized signer, or if that has changed, it will need to be signed by someone that is at an executive level, normally the president, VP, CEO, owner, with their designation under their signature. That letter would have to go into or be sent to enrollment and billing to be updated in order to, or it would have to be sent in order to get our enrollment and billing system updated to reflect the correct group contact.
Okay, another question. Because the quoting is still done on Form Fire, is this the reason no medical is entered in employee access?
I'm not sure. So I guess I need a little bit more clarification. So I guess I'm curious if an individual went in to try to enroll someone with a 5/1/2020 effective date as open enrollment on employer access, and they didn't see the option to select a medical plan. I guess I need to get a little more clarification on that one. I'm sorry.
Okay, and I'll keep an eye out for clarification. Okay. So our groups who are used to using Form Fire, will they not use Form Fire again?
Well, in terms of for SOCA MEWA, and I'm not aware of any for small group, I'm not aware of FormFire being used for our legacy or our ACA business. So in terms of enrollment and billing, beginning 5/1/2020, employer access is going to be the exclusive source in terms of enrolling employees, making enrollment changes, checking enrollment status. It's not going to be done through FormFire in terms of the enrollment piece.
So, and just to add to that, Marlon, so the current pre-screen process and new business submission process on the SOCA BP program is not changing. So FormFire will continue to be the avenue for that process. So this change just impacts that ongoing employee maintenance.
Correct.
Okay, back to that original question. I'll read it again. Because the quoting is still done on FormFire, is this the reason no medical is entered in employee access? And then her follow-ups are, no, we did not try looking at the individual's medical questions. Does the employee still use FormFire to enter their application?
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so as far as for any type of services or enrollment prior to 5/1, it can still be done on FormFire, but anything after the 5/1/2020 effective date, that would have to be done through employer access.
And I think just to add to that, if I'm understanding the question correctly, and again, this is Tracy, so if a group is processing their own open enrollment changes or ongoing maintenance, they're not going to have access to that application via FormFire. So in this situation, you would want to go back to using a paper application for those add-ons, qualifying events, new hires, that type of thing, for effective dates 5/1 and beyond.
Thank you, Tracy.
We got quite a few more questions here. Our groups have been sending requests to Midwest Employer Maintenance at anthem.com. When will those requests be processed? And will we be able to access the employer site directly from the broker portal?
Yes, so again, depending on the volume of email that comes through to that Midwest.employer maintenance, the turnaround time, I believe, is generally 3 to 5 business days. That's the standard. I believe it's actually more like 1 to 2, but right now, because we have the conversion with the SOCA MEWA, the processing time for that administrator, it may be extended longer than it normally would be. And I'm sorry, what was the other portion of that question?
And will we be able to access the employer site directly from the broker portal?
Yes, so you can log into the producer toolbox, and again, you will need to access your portfolio of groups through the producer toolbox. And then once you have selected that group, there will be an actual hyperlink where you can click on go to employer access within their profile or that group profile.
And I think, Marlon, real quick, if I can just add something to that, as I was listening to that question, I just want to clarify and just make sure that everybody understands that moving forward, all of those changes must be processed on employer access. So Anthem will no longer be accepting a faxed paper application for these ongoing maintenance changes. So everything has to be funneled through the employer access site.
Yep, that is correct. Yep.
Okay. Just to confirm, if a group already has employer access, the new capabilities will be added to their current user login information.
Yes, so their credentials are going to be transferred over to the new WGS group number. That most of those will start with an SB for medical, but yes, so that information is being transferred systematically in employer access, so that the current users under their existing group number will transfer over, those credentials will transfer over to the new system in employer access. Or I should say the
Okay.
new application.
When in
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just, yeah, the new application in employer access. The current facets number is under the facets application, but with the new WGS group numbers, you would want to use that central large group application drop down, but the credentials are going to transfer to that application.
Okay. When an employer is adding an employee with a qualifying event, do they need to submit, say, the court order or a loss of coverage document?
In terms of qualifying life event, I would have to double check that. I believe, to the best of my knowledge, I don't believe that's going to, if it is required, then the actual enrollment is going to pend. And it will ask for that, is my understanding. I'm going to have to double check that in terms of court order, or if there was some other QLE event, if we would need to have proof of documentation sent into enrollment and billing. I will double check that, and I can get back with Tracy on that.
Can the employer add a new hire in employer access without having the employee complete an actual paper application?
Yeah, they can. That's going to be at the discretion of the group. It is highly recommended that the group has, for auditing purposes, that they do have the employee complete an application. Most groups that I'm aware of, that is something that they require for their records. But no, it's the group or the broker, if you've got all of the information, you can enter it in the system online, but again, it is strongly recommended for auditing purposes that actual paper application. And I would think, just to capture all of the information that you're going to need, that you would, that an employee would go ahead and complete that.
Okay. Can an employer still use the form FIRE for enrollment and download the apps from there for their records and input into Anthem employer system?
Well, because I would recommend actually going ahead and just using, if you have an existing application, you could go ahead and use that SOCA MEWA application that you may have already downloaded from Form FIRE, but because that functionality in terms of the enrollment piece is going to be turned off, I don't know if those forms are going to be available after after 5/1 of 2020. So if it's still available through Form FIRE, it can be downloaded. You can still use those applications in terms of, for your records. But in terms of just those forms continue to be available, I'm not sure if it's going to be continually housed on Form FIRE.
Okay, kind of with that, the next question is, why can't we generate a paper app from Form FIRE?
I am not, at this point, I'm not sure why that, if you're currently using it for services prior to or enrollment dates prior to 5/1, you should be able to do that. But because employer access is going to be the vehicle that needs to be used for enrollment purposes after 5/1/2020, at this point, it's going to be turned off, because we won't be, you'll be utilizing the employer access system. I'm not sure if that actually is answering the question at this point, or if I'm missing something on that one. I guess I'm trying to make sure that I understand if we're talking an enrollment after 5/1/2020 or prior to 5/1 of 2020.
Okay, I will keep an eye out for any kind of clarification that she wants to submit. Can you explain the process an employer will go through when hiring a new employee? Currently, they use FormFire to enter all of the individual medical. Will this now be done through employer access? Where does a new employee enter their information?
Okay, so the employee will not be going into employer access as they've done with FormFire to fill out information themselves. So what will happen again, or what my suggestion would be, is to have the physical application completed by the employee. Once the application is completed, then the employer or the broker will be entering that information online through employer access on behalf of the employee. So the employee will not have they won't have a username and password to go into employer access as they do with FormFire.
All right. I have groups that take me directly what do I want to do. So group has approved broker access. However, on others, I'm being asked for the password and username. Why is this?
Okay, so I guess in terms of the username and password, is that being requested by the employer access site administrator?
I'm not sure, but I can keep an eye out for a response.
Yeah.
So if we go to employer access through the broker portal, then we do not need login information from the employer?
Well, you still need to, you've got to request the initial login credentials. So you'll have to go into the producer toolbox and go into the employer access web link so that your request to get initial login credentials is sent to our employer access site administrator so that they can correspond with the group to verify if approval is granted to allow for that broker to have access. But once that has been established, you can either go into employer access through the producer toolbox, or you can go directly into employer access.
Okay, lost my place. Give me 1 second. Okay, so I believe she followed up. So I'll reread the original question. I have groups that take me directly into what do I want to do. So group has approved broker access. However, on others, I'm being asked for the password and the username. Why is this? And she followed up saying on ER access.
Okay, on that one, if I could get an example of what was received or that email, or who's requesting that, I'd have to research that further, because I'm not sure why that's being asked. I'm trying to determine if that's something that's coming from the employer access administrator. I don't know if, I'd have to see that. I apologize. I'm just not sure why that would be happening on some requests and not others. I'm not sure on that one. Sorry.
So I think on this one, Marlon, if we could just have that individual reach out to their Cornerstone broker advisor, and we can work that one with you directly.
Okay. All right. I appreciate that.
And then I think real quick, if we can go back to the prior question regarding the applications in FormFire, if I understood the question correctly, I think the individual was asking why the employer wouldn't have access to that employee application on FormFire.
Okay.
And that is due to HIPAA. So while the broker has access to those applications, the employer does not. I think the question that we still need to confirm is that, as of 5/1, will that SOCA application still be available as a template on FormFire, or is that being taken away? And that's a follow-up question that we'll get back to everybody on.
I appreciate that. Yeah, and that would be a question that FormFire would need to address.
Okay, the next question is, on the Anthem broker site, when you have several agents, Is there not an easier way to find the group other than logging into each agent and looking for the group?
Okay, are we talking about the producer toolbox at this point then, or I guess I'm trying to make sure I understand.
Again, I'll have to wait for an update to that one, so we can circle back. Let me see. Where can we download the appropriate Anthem application?
Those are actually, and I can send those out to Tracy, but we do have an area on Anthem.com where applications are loaded. I may be able to get to that here. Let me see, give me just a moment. They are available on the Anthem.com website. Bear with me. So you can go in as a producer. I believe it's going to be here. Let me double check. Find the form. It's going to bring us to our forms library. Applications and enrollment. Let me make sure that I'm on Ohio. Okay. Let me make sure. Yeah, these are the forms here. Our 2020 change forms. Let me verify. So we do have forms on the forms library on our website. What I can also do is just make sure that I send the the forms out to Tracy, and I don't know if you have a way of just disseminating those out to the respective brokers that are on the line, but I can go ahead and do that to make it easier. But we do have the forms repository here on the Anthem.com website. So
we can certainly do that, Marlon. We can make sure that everybody gets a copy of that enrollment application and that change form.
Okay.
And I think just we might have time for one more question, and then for those that we don't get addressed, we can reach out to you after the webinar with the responses to those questions moving forward.
Okay, sounds great.
Okay, another question. What is the actual name of the application form on Anthem.com?
The actual for the I'm sorry. Are we talking a paper application? Or are we talking about the application for the employer access in terms of the system application? I'm sorry.
She said the file name, how it is shown in the list under forms.
Let's see.
That's something that we can circle back around with too, Marlon. When we send that application out, we can we can address it at that point in time.
Okay.
All right. So we will go ahead and wrap up today. I know that we have a few follow-up items, and we will get back to everybody with that. Along with that, we will get those applications out to everybody, along with the screenshots that outline how you go about requesting that employer permission. And then if you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out to your Cornerstone broker advisor, and we'll get back to you as quickly as possible.
Yeah. All right, well, I appreciate the opportunity to speak with the group this morning, and yeah, Tracy, if you can get me any of the follow-ups or any other items that I need to address with you, that would be great. And you know, I'll get those items to you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.